All right, so hey everybody, welcome to the Be Insightful in Technology podcast, where I'm your host Shakiria Johnson, and I'm here to help you gain knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to be insightful in technology. So let's go ahead and get into today's episode. I have Byron Davis here that I want to go ahead and talk to, get a little dive deep into, and see what's going on in his career. So hi Byron, how are you?
Good morning. How are you? Or good evening, actually.
Yeah, so I say, well, was a good afternoon technically, but
Yeah, mountain time. Mountain time.
no, you're right. You're right. So let's go ahead and like dive into this. So who are you? What do you do? Where can people find you?
So my name is Byron Davis. I'm an beginning IT professional. Currently, I'm in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Moved from Memphis to Colorado Springs. So currently out here, and people can find me on LinkedIn, social media. I'll make sure to provide you that information.
And I'll make sure to include all the links in the show notes that you can reach out to them. And also, so did you relocate for your job?
Yes.
So what was that process like before we got deep into it, the relocation? Did they give you like the package? Like what did they tell you, like how long you had to relocate? What was that like?
So I actually had the interview the day that I was about to move, actually, to like I want to say I was moving that Friday. I had my interview that Wednesday. And it was more so of a decision if I was going to move anyway. But some people like to have the opportunity lined up before they make that leap. But I feel like I work better under pressure. So I feel like just putting myself out there, I'm bound to find something. And I actually had a Zoom call interview with the director of IT and one of the SMEs for my line of business. And by that Monday, I got the job. So.
Oh wow. Okay, so yeah, I'm definitely someone who has to have like something lined up
Yeah.
beforehand, be all planned out. Because a lot of companies like have relocation packages, and I've noticed with the one I'm at, they give you a good amount to relocate, and they make sure
Yeah.
everything's taken care of. So just want to
Oh,
check.
I would have loved it, but yeah, I had to foot the bill myself. So.
So it's normally like, oh, don't tell them you're moving anyway, but they might give you some.
Right.
So what do you currently do at your job? Like, what's your role? What's your job description, if you might?
So my job description is technical lead for the government community cloud space for Exchange Online, one of the LOBs for M365, one of the products that Microsoft offers. And yeah, kind of what I do in that field, I pretty much just supervise engineers technically coach them on process and different parts of the technology. I also work kind of as an escalation engineer. So for more of our critical situation cases, I'm like the go-to person. So yeah.
All right, so let's get into how you got to this point. Go ahead and tell me about the journey up to now.
Okay, so I moved out here August 2020. Well, no, actually July 2020. And I had gotten approved for the job, but I wasn't going to be in the next training class until August. So I had to task myself with finding something in between time, work part-time at the local drivers DMV during the COVID situation, just kind of like cleaning, which was completely different, but they were paying me a lot more than I was making back home. So I was like, I'll do it. So I kind of bided my time with that. And I'd say around August of 2020, training started, and we were in training for like 3 months. I had no knowledge of M365 or Exchange at that time. I didn't even know what line of business I was going to go to. They kind of route you where you go. But yeah, I landed in the government space, and I kind of treat more of my help desk tickets as conversations versus making it like transactional, like, hey, how are you? What's up? Whatever. And I feel like it helped me like really bring the most out of the interaction with our customers, that it didn't make my job hard. It just seemed like I was talking to people. So yeah, and I kind of just like worked towards that and strove to, enhance my capabilities. And after about a year, I landed technical lead after I applied for it. And right now they're trying to get me to go to technical manager, but I don't want to do that because you're not really technical. So I like to stay technical.
Well, okay, so this is one of those things where I be realizing with people in tech, it's like always a technical chat. You can stay on it, or you can go on like the supervised manager role.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you want to continue, or do you eventually want to end up on that manager side?
Um, I feel like I want to continue till I'm at a point where I feel like um, myself, I'm qualified to be able to manage people in that respect. Because some of us do suffer from imposter syndrome, even if people say like, oh, you're great at your job, you know your stuff, but I don't feel like I know my stuff enough to be able to manage people in that space. Um, so yeah, I feel like it really depends because it seems like management roles land more opportunity than those specialized like technical roles. So I know it really just depends. I know right now for me, I'm really more so looking for sysadmin, but I'm not against like escalation engineer. I wouldn't be against doing what I'm currently doing, um, just at another company. But yeah.
Okay, so we talked about this earlier about you go want to go to sysadmin roles. Do you want to end up working at like a smaller company to be able to be over multiple different aspects of it, kind of have
Mhm.
more responsibility?
I'm I'd say like to start somewhere. Like I want to start like from what I know and kind of branch out. So I feel like I'm flexible on either. Really, it could be small aspect to have of having more range, or it could be a larger organization having like someone specifically I work with. So uh, I feel like the broader range would have like introduced me to things I haven't really had experience in before. So I feel like there are benefits to both, but I'm really open for anything right now. So
Okay, so you're just trying to learn something.
right.
All right. So what has inspired you to take part in, continue your journey in tech and to continue learning?
Just I feel like it's just like not knowing, like really just like not being as um not having, like I said, that firm understanding of everything and like just having an inquisitive mind, like naturally, wanting to learn how things work and like just the mechanics and processes of stuff. Like it can be puzzling. I'm one of those people that definitely watch like how it's made just for the entertainment purposes. So yeah, I feel like us in tech, it's the future, and if we get a handle on it, we kind of get a handle on the future. So
You're right. Honestly, I'm one of those people too. It's just like you got to figure it out. Like, how do they
mhm.
put this part here? How do they do this with that?
Right.
But that's so. I bet. Make sure. All right, but back to what you were saying.
Mhm.
If you could like start over, what would you do? Like, would you? What is it? Let me ask you from the beginning. When did you start getting into tech? Like, when did you
Uh,
have an interest in it?
I started getting into tech at an early age. I've been into video games and computers since I'd say like third grade. Um, I didn't even have high speed internet till like I want to say like my ninth, 10th grade in college. Because well, no, ninth, 10th grade in high school. Because my parents didn't really like. I don't know. My dad was into like construction and industrial stuff. So and my mom like she took classes, but she was more so like old school to where she went to the library to use a computer. So we had a computer, but we didn't have like high speed. We didn't have a setup. We didn't have a router. Like she didn't know what any of that was. So um, I pretty much just have to use Wi-Fi at school or at a public place to be able to like connect with people. Whereas you have people that have had like a cell phone and a MySpace since they could walk. So but yeah, it's always been, I guess, that lack of having that as a kid throughout kind of like entice like my I don't know, like my pursuit of it professionally. So like now I'm like all into stuff, like just trying to figure things out. So I feel like that's where it started. And in terms of professionally, like where like kind of like cemented in for me, I'd say it was like in college. My connections and interactions with people in college, their experiences, internships, and definitely my study abroad, I would say.
Okay, so tell me about your college experience. Where did you go? What did you graduate with? And how was that?
Mississippi State. I was a freshman class of 2013. I graduated 2019. I was in a dual major. program, international business focus, but it was business information systems and French were the actual programs. And so I got a degree in both. And we had to have an internship and a study abroad under our belt in order to graduate. I think we had 170 credit hours within our 5-6 year time. And my college experience was not the most ideal. I didn't have like the partying, going to football games and tailgates, step shows and whatnot. It was a lot more just working and going to class. So, I mean, I tried to like leverage some like time to like just relax and like enjoy stuff. But it wasn't like your typical, like, some people religiously go to every game and some people religiously, go to those formals and stuff. I didn't do any of that. So it was a lot more focused on a mission of, I came here to go to school to, further myself in my career. So.
Okay. So what did you intend to like get a job in after you graduated?
Have you ever seen, what is it? Have you ever seen House of Lies on Showtime? Or is it Stars? Stars or Showtime with
I'm gonna be so real, like I barely watch TV.
Okay,
like
so management consultant is what I wanted to be. If you've ever seen that show, that's what he is, but he's a Black management consultant. And so he's like, talking to these different, leaders, CEOs and corporations, giving them business advice to save them this quarter or whatever. I wanted to do that. It's leveled between that, real estate, and now just tech, because tech I saw more as a hobby, so I didn't want to like commercialize that. I didn't want to make it a job because I feel like I wouldn't enjoy it, but I feel like you bring the joy to the job. Like you see what, you get your own experience out of it. So that's how I got here, I guess, to this mindset now. Like being firm in what you want to do is a hard space to get into, because especially coming out of like high school or going into college, that's like the number one thing people ask you, like, what's your 5-year plan? What's your dream job? What do you see yourself doing for the rest of your life? Like, and I feel like with that mentality, people try to like fast track it instead of giving themselves time to like experience the process of learning what it is they want to do.
Oh, that's crazy you said that, because I'm definitely on a plan. Like on a plan. Like I just need one. And I realized like having at least an idea in mind can lead you to something.
Right.
No idea, it's like you're running all over the place. And that's
Right.
that's not helpful when you're spending a lot of money to go to school.
No, it's not. No, it's not. And especially when you feel like, you try to talk to people who don't probably like might understand, but they don't really have the like understanding of being in the situation. It's like, you can do whatever you want to do. I support you in anything, versus being like, hey, I've seen you good in this, you excel in this, try to do this. But thankfully I have a couple of friends that like put me on that path of like, trying to narrow that down to a focal point and then just focusing on that, because it's so hard, because it's self-driven versus being in college or a vocational program or the military or whatever. Someone's telling you what to do versus you coming to the conclusion yourself. So it's a lot.
People love when things are their own ideas. So I love when people like come together with their life and it's just like, oh, I finally got this something.
Yes, I'm all about being organic. I am all about being organic. I'm all about letting it come to you, because I could tell you all day, but until you come to the conclusion yourself, it don't mean anything.
All right, like exactly. So easing into like the next section, what are some of your thoughts, comments, and concerns that's going on in the industry that you want to address? Some things you want to talk about, make open to the public. It could be positive, it can be negative, it can be anything.
I would say one of my biggest things is like, for example, like if you were to get a degree like solely online, like you don't set foot on campus, some people might not see that as like you had the genuine college experience. And I feel like a lot of people are a lot more caught up in that said experience, which is scripted by the university to make money. But they see college as more of like instead of seeing it as an escalation to where they want to be, I feel like they see it more as a safe haven to have a buffer of figuring out what they want to do. And so they don't use it to its fullest extent. Like People don't go to career days. People don't go to the career center to have them critique your resume or to take your headshot or to get your passport or, financial planning classes and stuff like that. And so you have people that just roll out of college and roll out of high school into jobs, and they're on this like day to day of, I just have to go to work to pay my bills, versus having a plan of action of, how they want to proceed in life. So I feel like that's my biggest thing, is not the full utilization of the resources that you're actually paying for. And then college doesn't necessarily equal success is another big thing. You can go to college and not get a job. You could not go to college and get an amazing job. And so I feel like it's more so you have to be a lot more adaptable now in today's time, because things were a lot, plain and simple back in the day. You go to medical school, you become a nurse, versus now, like, you might have to spend some time doing additional programs that people didn't have to do, because that's just the way things have changed in the market nowadays. So even in tech, things are always changing. Like, work from home wasn't even an idea until recently. And so now it's like sought after. Some people require it. So it's always being adaptable to situations and being able to like bring your understanding to it so that it can grow, because like the internet itself is just a connection of computers, whereas tech is, a connection of people. So I feel like the more that we bring to it and the more organic it is, kind of the more exciting for the future I am, really.
Okay, so from the top of that answer, I actually took my program online, but then again, I had a bunch of in-person school stuff that backed me up, because my journey really started in high school. Mm-hmm. So I had the chance to go through a technical career program at my career academy, and then do dual enrollment, and then hop into the workforce. And then at that point, I went ahead and jumped back into school. I was gonna do on campus, but on campus was too much, and I didn't want to pay for stuff. I didn't want to pay for it, so I went ahead and changed my stuff. My program, I did information technology, did that online, and even online, you can utilize the stuff that they offer because you're still part of the school. It just takes you have to take the steps yourself. Like, nobody's gonna come to you.
And it really has to be down to just I feel like how bad you want it. Yeah. Because I have been that person that's missed oh, it's 8:00. Like, I just woke up, it's 9:00 and my class started at 8:30. And I know that they locked the door after 5 minutes to take attendance. So I was that person sitting outside the door taking notes, listening to the class. It depends on how bad you want it, because that's going to really determine your drive of are you ready for what you're trying to set yourself up for?
And it's I feel like people see the end goal, but they don't want to acknowledge all the steps that it takes to get there.
Right.
So it's they just expect that it's gonna as soon as they start, they're gonna be at the end, and it's not where it's at. It's the journey it takes to get there. You pick up so much on the way, right. So much.
The instant gratification comes a lot more natural. So that's why they kind of, when you talk to these mentors in the business and stuff like that, and tech gurus, they're practice delayed gratification, because good things are going to take time. And you could accept the opportunity right now that's good for the time being, which could block a better opportunity in the long run. It kind of really depends. So, you have to be able to adapt to the situation and be able to take it for what it is and what you can, utilize it for. And I don't know, like right now, I'm in a space of trying to wait for the next opportunity, for the next, job, not necessarily being picky, but if you're making a career change, especially after, gaining experience and leveling into a field, you want to make the informed decision versus who comes with the best opportunity, in a short period of time. So
what I've noticed on a job hunt, and we talked about contract positions versus FTE roles. I got my first initial job for that job was 2 weeks, and it was help desk for a contract role. And at that point, I just needed to step foot into the industry. So that actually allowed me to jump into my next role. And it's like people just want to see you have that drive.
Right.
Even when you're doing interviews, people just want to see that you have the energy, you have the ability to come in and learn and want to be a part of something big.
Mm-hmm.
And that can get you many places. Honestly, your attitude can get you far as long as it's positive.
And another thing that I feel like is said to a lot of people that look like us when they get into these spaces of like being in meetings and, you know, driving a meeting and forming their opinion on something, even if it's disagreeing, it's almost like it's discouraged for you to speak what you actually feel because you don't want to have that kind of target on your back of being that like rebel against everybody. But I've found, and that's always something my mom's told me, like, it's the way that you talk to people, it's the tact that you use, that's important. But I'm able to talk to people professionally the same way I would talk, like, just to anybody, same way. And I feel like they respect me for it more at work than if I were just to be like, oh, well, I don't know. It really just depends. I could see that, but not actually having like a hard and like discerning opinion. It's called passion in other, conversations with other people. Whereas for us, it's called, I don't know, attitude or whatever. So
Yeah.
I really feel like it's important to be like firm in who you are because that says more about, like I said, like you were saying, your passion for it. So,
Like you have to have passion.
yep.
Honestly, when it comes to being a part of, I guess, bigger companies, they're looking for differences. They're looking for people who can come in and be innovative. And if you're kind of sitting back and holding back your own thoughts and opinions, you're not helping in a sense. And it's like you might have multiple meetings about, not having imposter syndrome and being able to communicate. And it's just like, if all that goes over your head, you don't actually put it to work, then you're kind of just stuck. That's what I've noticed in like other places where I get told about older people. It's just you want to be able to speak up because this is what I would have done when I would have started.
Right.
So it's just take the advice and actually project your opinions in a positive. And I wouldn't say really it has to be super positive, but it has to be respectful.
Right. In a practical manner.
Yeah. So what is it? And then you talked about the remote work being a thing now. It's like a lot of people are quitting their jobs because they don't want to go back in the office as well. And how do you feel about that? Like, would you do that?
So I'm kind of flexible on it. Like we did it for a year, roughly. Yeah, we did it for a year exactly. And then when I got my promotion, they brought us back. Well, they brought the technical leads back into the office with the managers, and the engineers stayed home. And so I have that like hybrid experience, I guess you could say. But now we're back like fully work from home for now until January 1st. And I would say I feel like there are pros and cons to it. I feel like collaboration takes a huge hit. Like I'm talking like direct, effective collaboration takes a huge hit. I can't just walk up to someone and be like, hey, can we talk about something? Or hey, can we have a meeting for like 20 minutes? Versus trying to call them via Teams and hunt them down to get on their calendar. So I feel like that's the only thing. Because I feel like I do a better job standalone working from home, but as a team in the office, 1,000%.
Okay.
I feel like engineers and like peers are more receptive to you in the office because they're seeing a person. They're feeling what you have to say, like the tone is set in the room, the expectation is set from your face and what you're saying versus them just hearing a voice all day. Like I feel like that there are pros and cons to it, but I feel like it is like if someone's able to effectively still do their job, if not better at home, then I feel like the option should be extended to them. But I know per different, environments that people work in, like that might not be a reality. Even with us working in the office, we can't have our phones. The room we work in doesn't have windows in compliance to what we deal with on a
Really?
day-to-day basis.
Oh,
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
you're kind of in the government space, basically, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a little more strict for you. So honestly, the work from home aspect of it, like if you're doing individual work,
Mm-hmm.
it is like you can actually sit and focus on it. What I've noticed is there's a lot of people who reschedule on calendars all the time. Like I'll have meetings pop
Mm-hmm.
up, it'll be things, but then like the next day it's on a whole nother day. It's just
It
the
won't
whole
tell
day
you.
up, right? So I get that.
Yeah.
What I've noticed also going into office, like I've realized now, like my position as a network engineer, I'm always gonna have to be in office at some point. So I have like no real issues with it because I enjoy what I do.
Mm-hmm.
But it comes time where it's like, yeah, I do want to be at home. I'm on a flex schedule too, so I kind of really pick and choose when I show up. But I'm I'm getting better at being more present and getting to know more people there. So that's actually been the fun part, getting to know more people and the free food. Can't deny that one that much. So
So like how do you feel like I guess what do you feel like I guess if we can I ask you a question right now?
go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So like compared to your first day at your role before and your first day to this role now, what would you speak to in terms of your growth as an engineer and as a person?
All right. So it has taught me to be more open and honestly, I've always went after what I want, as in like if I'm trying to figure out something, I'm gonna ask whoever I need to ask to get there and not care if I'm bothering them, if just
Mm-hmm.
be open. But it's actually allowed me to, from like a coworker to VP level, just be okay with like that difference. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're not entirely that above you. Everybody's still a person at the end of the day. So
Right.
that has allowed me to just dive deeper into not, I wouldn't say not necessarily caring about the role stand for the organizational chart, is being more
Mm-hmm.
open and not trying to back down when I see somebody at like VP president level.
Right.
That has actually really helped me when it comes to this podcast and also just at work in general, just being open to talking to everybody.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I agree. Ooh, wait. It's like the more comfortable you are like in communicating with people, like the easier it makes transitions. So yeah.
Because it's just like no matter if you transition from somewhere, you don't know everything about the role. And it's going to be like you have to talk to people.
Mm.
And throughout my job now, like they make sure that you feel at most comfortable with talking to people. Like feedback is such a big thing here. So it's just one of those things where it's like you're gonna have to talk to people. And they probably know like a lot of people in tech are like introverts. So there's a lot of, for one, training and just help in general to get you out of your shell to be more comfortable at work and be more comfortable with people around you.
Yeah.
So, since you asked me that question, you go ahead and answer it back.
um, I mean, I feel like my first day at this role versus my first day at my last role. Well, I'll say my last technical role. Um, it's kind of speaking to what you were saying about being a lot more like communicative with everybody, um, being being able to prioritize what I need to do versus like having a laundry list of things, being able to prioritize like what takes precedent and what's time sensitive, being able to, I'd say, assess when I feel like I'm getting close to being burnt out versus just like, I feel like managing burnout is a huge thing, especially in the tech space, because it just seems like, you're standing at the computer all day for 10, 12 hours. And, after a couple of weeks, you start getting headaches. And it's like, I didn't get headaches before. And so you don't really see it as that until you see the drawbacks from it. And so like, I don't know, you also have like the same way you manage your time and you manage, your work, you have to manage yourself too. And I definitely feel like my previous role definitely helped me a lot with that. It was a lot more self-paced, kind of like what I do now. But I had a lot more like direct supervision, whereas versus now they kind of just rely on me to make it happen. So yeah, and it's also let me know an even bigger thing is that to keep pursuing things if you feel like your time has come, the opportunity that you're in has like hit its wall, so to speak. So I definitely think that's played a big part because a lot of people kind of garnish like company loyalty, even though it might not be necessarily serving them, whether it's financially, professionally, or education wise. It's you have to keep going and not get stagnant in anything. So and I feel like that's kind of where my drive is now. Like I started year one, got promoted, and I'll be at a year in this role in August, and now and I've already talked to recruiting, and I'm like, hey, I want to do job by August, or if not, end of the year. Like it's time for something else. So
the job hopping is not a bad thing.
no.
Like honestly, I was in my role for like less than a year. Why role? I was at the company for 2 years, but in the newer role, less than a year before I job hopped. And it's just like when opportunity comes, you have to do it for yourself.
Agreed. Yep.
So
and you can't feel bad about it. You can't let nobody make you feel bad about choosing you. Like you can't. Like, and even if there's family, friends, like whatever, like you can't let anybody feel bad about for you choosing you and what's best for you, because
right.
at the end of the day, you have to go through it. You have to apply yourself. You're the one that's stressed out. Like, so it's kind of like you owe it to yourself and to the process that you go through.
Exactly. So just a quick run through of how can others get to where you are? Like, what are some tips that you would hand out?
Oh, okay, great. I would say definitely use your resources constructively. The same way people get on YouTube and look up Ray videos, no shade. Same way people get on YouTube, look up shoe reviews, car reviews. You can get on YouTube and look up skills. You can look up, your dream role. Someone could do a video on the day in the life of a sysadmin or a knock one engineer. And it can kind of really give you insight. It can kind of fast track some of those ideas of what does that look like? And so like, just use your time wisely. Another thing is do not be afraid to invest in yourself. Spending money on programs and software that'll help you get to where you're trying to go is definitely encouraged, because I mean, you're doing that even more in college on a larger scale. That's a lot more expensive. So I definitely feel like had I known what I know now, when I first started my role back in August of 2020, I would have used that time to be a lot more familiar with some of the terms and services that we use now. I definitely feel like there are areas that I can improve upon. So that's why I'm trying to get my certifications now in those areas and taking the extra time, even if that's like an hour or so a day over, a couple of months, that adds up. And that's a new skill, that's new experience, that's a new, that's a new bullet point on my resume. And that's a new area of interest. So.
All right. I like those. Like, okay, we're going to definitely have another conversation. I'm going to have you on the podcast again because I want to talk about something else.
Hey, that's
fine. So what is a motivating, insightful quote that has helped you along your journey?
Ooh, wait. I would say I have a quote on my teams that I made myself. I used to have the Wakanda Forever quote. I used to have that in my email subheading. And people all my customers responding back, I love Black Panther. I appreciate your help, blah, blah, blah. But it was more so like, I don't know, what that movie made me feel is how I feel on a day-to-day basis when I accomplish things. That movie felt like a milestone of accomplishment, not only for, people like us, but everyone in general, because it was just people coming together to get something done. And I feel like that's kind of what we do. Like a lot of people come together, a lot of people are involved and once it's accomplished, it's high fives and you can laugh and joke about it or whatever. So that's what inspired me to put that there. But I put my own quote on my teams now, on my team status every day. If you try to message me, it pops up. And I said, be good at being consistent. And I feel like that in any aspect of your life, being consistent is like more than important than anything. So yeah.
I need to be good at being consistent too.
Yeah.
But thank you for coming in on the podcast today. I'll make sure to include his social media and LinkedIn all in the show notes so you guys can connect with him. And also, thank you for listening to the Be Insightful in Technology podcast, coming in to gain knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. So tune in next time. All right.